I've been a nurse longer than I've been a wife, and I think I'm just now starting to understand the balance. So let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to balance being a wife and your career. Again, I've been a nurse in my career for 7 years now, and I've only been a wife for 2 years, and I feel like I'm just now starting to understand that balance. So hopefully this video will be applicable to you in whatever career that you're doing. So without further ado, let's get into it. First things first, y'all, you need to prioritize structure. With me, one thing I understand is that my marriage is my first ministry. A couple of y'all know that I've been doing my little vlogs on Instagram and Facebook, a traditional day in the life. Wait, no, it's a day in the life of a traditional wife. And then I start talking about my day. And something I say in almost every video is, I clocked out of my 9 to 5, now I'm clocking into my 24/7. And that's literally my mindset. Like once I clock out and I'm heading home, my mindset is just immediately focused on my husband, especially if I know he's gonna be home. I wanna make sure I make him a nice breakfast because he doesn't always eat breakfast. I make sure I wanna take care of him. And it's funny because I posted a video about this on Instagram and somebody commented, why are you doing that? Like, are you a slave? Why can't he do it? And I'm like, you know, he's physically capable of doing these things, yes, like cleaning up for himself. He's physically able to cook for himself. He's physically able to do everything on his own, really. But I just feel like as a wife, these are things that I love doing for him. This is my way of saying I love you. This is what I love doing as a traditional wife. And that's another thing, because some people were saying, oh, you're not a traditional wife because you work and da-da-da-da. And that's okay, you can think that. But again, in this day and age with this economy, it's just not always ideal to be sustained off of one income. And that's okay. 2 people have to work, and that's fine. I have friends who are stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home wives, and a lot of them are finding side hustles as well to help bring income in the home. But even though I do work, I still hold on to traditional values like cooking for my husband and cleaning for him, taking care of the house, you know, being a nurturer and things like that. Like I still hold fast to those values, and he still holds fast to his traditional values as well. But I don't want to go off like on a tangent, so I want to spin back to my main point of prioritizing your marriage. Like, of course my job is important, don't get me wrong, but my marriage is my main foundation. And if you want to learn how to balance, you know, work and your career, then you have to think to yourself, is this my foundation? You know, what if my job calls me one day and says, hey, can you work some overtime? But your husband planned a nice little date night for you. Which are you going to prioritize? The date night or making a couple extra bucks? Some people will say, oh, I need those extra bucks, we need it. Okay, you're always gonna need money and the money's gonna be there, but you're not always gonna have your husband with you, you know? You don't know. Listen, life is just so unpredictable, and sometimes I hate thinking like this, but it's just realistic in this day and age. Every time I have with my husband, I literally cherish it as if it were the last moment with him, because you just don't know what can happen. So if that were your situation where your job were to call you in and your husband planned a date night, I would hope that you would say, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm really busy, but I have plans. I'm unable to come in tonight. And you prioritize your marriage, girl. And you don't gotta be all in depth like that. You can just respectfully shut it down. No, I'm sorry, I'm unable to, sorry. Next, one thing I do is time blocking my schedule. So I know some people tend to have work at home, and sometimes it can coincide, especially if you guys have like conflicting schedules. Maybe when he comes home, you're still working and things of that nature. So I think if that's your case, you want to time block your schedule. And what I mean by that is setting aside time for your work and setting aside time for your husband after work. If you need to plan your day by the hour, then by all means do that. Okay, from 8 to 9, I'm going to log in. At 12, I'm gonna have lunch, this and that, and then after work, I'm gonna make sure that I have time to wind down with my husband, to speak with him, to cook, you know, things like that. But I think those wind down moments, you really wanna make sure that you know, add it to your schedule, because those are the moments to ensure that nobody is getting neglected. Because when you think about it, we spend all these hours at work, and by the time we do see our significant others, it's really not that long until we have to go to bed and do it all over again in the morning. God bless some relationships, it's like they talk for like maybe 20 minutes a day. And it's like, how do you expect a marriage to thrive off that, to sustain off that? You know, it's not a lot of time. So make sure that you schedule in some time to talk to your significant other. It's so funny because as I was saying that, my husband literally called me. And that's another thing. My husband, when he has downtime, he calls me from work. Like little moments that he has, just like, hey, how are you doing? Just checking in on you. And honestly, those are like some of my favorite parts of the day. Like, we don't always have time to go in depth and have these long conversations, obviously, because, you know, one of us are at work. But it's nice to know that, you know, when he has a little downtime, he calls me and he checks up on me. And I feel so special. I'm like, oh, you really thought about me right now. You're like, let me call Bae. Another tip that I would give is to start the day with prayer, because you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't pour into your marriage and give your 100% if you have nothing literally inside to give. I tried to make sure I pray for my husband, my family, myself, and I'm very specific in my prayers too. I ask God to help me to be a good wife, ask him to show me areas where I can improve. I pray over my husband, you know, and I'm very specific in that area as well, because when it comes to the Most High God, you gotta be specific. You can't be vague. If you want something or if you need something purged out of you, ask him and he'll do it. He'll help you do that. Before anything, the Most High God has to be the center of your marriage. So if you're not putting God first, then how do you expect anything to be able to sustain? I remember years ago in college, I had seen a picture of like this triangle, and it was like you here, him here, and then God was at the top. And, you know, it portrayed this theme of you both walking together and basically walking towards God, but he was the foundation of the relationship, if that makes sense. And till this day, I still think of that concept, like, are we working together towards God? Is he our foundation? Is he our everything? Is he our reason? And to be honest, that really just helps to check me and my motives to make sure that I'm doing things with a pure heart and not just for selfish gain, you know? Also, y'all, please excuse my little wrist. I have tendonitis, so my arm's just been bothering me. I have a little flare up right now, but it's gonna be okay. And let's talk about food, baby. Let's talk about cooking. Because one thing about me, after my 12-hour shifts, I am so tired. But here's how I do it. So I try to meal plan in advance. So sometimes I'll jot down my meal ideas and put it in my notepad on my phone, and then I'll run it by my husband and be like, hey, this is what I was thinking we can have this week. What are your thoughts? You know, because I always want to make sure we're on the same page. I'm not just cooking for me, I'm cooking for him, and I want to make sure that when I make it, it's something that he wants to eat. So I'll run it by him and say, hey, are you feeling this? He'll tell me, and then I try to make the heaviest meal probably at the beginning of the week. Like if I know I'm working back to back, I'll make that meal first, and I'll make it so that it can last at least 2 days. And again, I know each marriage is different. Some men out there don't like having leftovers. My man don't mind. And I love that for me. So I will create in bunches. I'll create enough for 2 days. I don't really go for 3, but if he really likes it, then he might want it a third day, but that's rare. And then on my days off, then I'll have like more of the lighter meals. But on my days off also, I try to cook the heavier meals, so when I'm working, I don't have to worry about all that pressure. Like I was working yesterday, and since I had time, I just made the chicken because I know I was off today and I didn't want to do too much. So I made that yesterday, and today I just have to make some rice. So I'm like, okay, let me make it easier for me. So whatever is easier for you, meal planning is going to be such a game changer, because nobody has time to stand in the kitchen and cook all day when you can just be smart with it. And also, I'm so grateful that sometimes my husband will just come home with like takeout. You know, we try not to eat too much takeout. I've been doing a lot better cooking more at home, because what they're putting in these foods, it's not always the healthiest. So I prioritize cooking at home, but once in a while, we'll have some takeout, and I love that for me too. Because if I could have a free day cooking, or if I could have a girl meal, child. I love a nice little girl meal because I never needed too much. I could eat little and I'll be fine, okay? Let's get rid of this big back. I think something else that can help with balancing work and your career is having some type of routine. You know how they say like kids thrive off of routines? Well, I think as adults, we also thrive off routines as well. Because if I know after I get off work, here's what I need to do. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make sure that this is right for him. And that routine will literally be up to you and your schedule, but definitely prioritize having that time with your husband. Like maybe at the dinner table, you guys will say, we are not gonna have any phones at the table. We're just gonna talk about our day, maybe the ups, the downs, things we didn't like, what we could do better on, things like that. So you know, at least this time during dinner time, I had his full attention. Because, you know, if you want this truth, a lot of us have husbands that are always on the go. Husbands that are always traveling, doing work for the Most High God. Like, sometimes we barely have time to spend with them. Like, that's just it is how it is. So the moments that we do get to spend with them, you know, we might not have hours to do that, and that's okay because these are revolutionary men and we got to get with the program, you know. So those moments that we do have to spend with them, let's capitalize on it and really take advantage of that time. Next, and I think I kind of reiterated this point already, but utilize a date night at least like twice a month if possible. You know, of course that's different because some people have kids, some people have heavier schedule than others, but try to incorporate at least 1 or 2 date nights a month with your significant other, because those reset moments are so needed. You know, it's funny, I was on TikTok the other day and there was a couple who posted a video and then they said, we thought, and I'm paraphrasing, but they wanted to end their marriage when really they just needed some time to spend together. They forgot how good it was to just spend together time with each other. Because, you know, kids, sometimes they can cause so much headache and stress and As much of a blessing they are definitely a handful. So having that time one-on-one, you really allow yourselves to fall back in love with each other and get to know each other more as well. It's like, hey, I forgot that you like to do this. Hey, what are your thoughts on this? Hey, what's new with you, really? You know, you get time to just really enjoy each other's presence more. So if at all possible, definitely utilize more date nights, maybe twice a month. You know, to each his own. If you can do more, that's great if you guys have the time, but definitely have that one-on-one time with your person. And sometimes you don't even have to go out all the time. Like sometimes my husband and I, when we have time together, like from work, when we're both off, we don't always go out. Sometimes the best times that we've had with each other was here at home, watching a movie or just talking. Sometimes we might order something, some dessert, ice cream or something, and we just truly enjoy each other's presence. Like, you don't always have to go out and spend money and do all this. Like, just as long as you guys have that one-on-one time together, you can capitalize off any moment. And lastly, give yourself grace. Like, nobody's perfect. There are times when I feel like I really dropped the ball and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's gonna be so mad or he's gonna be so disappointed in me. And my husband is just so understanding, and I love that for me, and it helps me to be more understanding with myself as well and to give myself more grace. It's not like I'm not putting in the effort to do everything. It's just some days you have 100 and then some days you're a little at 60, you know. But I'm constantly reminding myself to always do the best that I can, and that's honestly what keeps me going. And honestly, being grounded in scripture as well, reading over scriptures about our foremothers, our forefathers, or even just listening to a class really helps keep me grounded as well. So prioritize the scriptures as well. And that's basically it, guys. That's how I prioritize being a wife and my career. It's really not that difficult too much right now because it's just me and him. So I do have a lot more free time on my hands, especially, you know, when I'm home and he's away at work. So I try to capitalize doing everything that I can while he's gone so that when he's home, I have more time with him. I really do hope this video was helpful. Drop a comment down below if it was, and let me know some more topics that you would like me to speak on. Also, I did not forget, listen, I know Passover is coming up and I said I was gonna do a video on like some recipe, but honestly, I rewatched the video on what I was gonna do, like some recipe ideas, and the one that stuck out to me, I kind of wasn't feeling it. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't, and I didn't want to just make something just to say I was making it because I'm very like intentional with my content. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna do this. I'm probably just gonna scale back on it. But I just wanted to let you guys know because I don't want to be the type of person who says they're gonna do something and doesn't do it, you know? So yeah, I just wanted to let y'all know about that one. Don't spell me. Anyways, I'll see you guys in my next one. Shalom.